Here we are for scenario number 7, In the Clutches of Chaos. I'm Daniel. Superfang99 is with me as always, and we're going to talk about this scenario, which has lots of moving parts, lots of different components, almost like it's a board game, a different board game.
Oh my god.
All right, this is the famous kind of pandemic scenario because there's, well, it's a big map here and things that can spread that incur doom. So
Indeed.
we're going to talk about the introduction here, and then we'll talk about that basic mechanic.
Yeah. So intros, basically just some story text. I like how it adds a little thing about if the investigators are never seen or heard from again, because that soothsayer at the very beginning talks to you again.
Mm-hmm.
And if you died, then you could be like, "Oh look, you're here," and then she's like, "What happened to your other people?" Anyway,
And
moving
you're
on.
really like sad at the beginning, like so you're still in Arkham, and because of like Annette or Carl turning everything awful, you're just like, what do I do? And then we play a scenario.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna get some cards, and then we're going to randomly choose some locations. There's two versions of basically every location, um, except for the Lodge and Hangman's Hill. But we are going to do some setup based on if Annette Mason is possessed by evil, or if Carl Sanford possesses the secrets of the universe. Namely, if you were unioned or disillusioned last scenario. Okay, so in each one, we get a different set of encounter cards to add into our encounter deck, and we get a different app deck, and we get a different version of Hangman's Hill and Silver Twilight Lodge locations. We'll go through that when we go to locations and the encounter deck, of course. But yeah, that's kind of the real setup. And then we're gonna put some breaches on some locations, depending on how many investigators we have. So if we have one investigator, we put breaches on two different random locations, and then for each investigator we have, basically do it either twice, 3 times, or this is weird text. If there are 4 investigators in the game, perform this step 3 times, choosing 3 different random locations each time instead of 2. The reason that they had to do that is because they really didn't want to have a breach immediately occur.
Yeah.
Or sorry, I should say an incursion. And that makes sense. So that
So
is the setup.
what are we talking about? What are breaches and incursions?
Good question. So, breaches and incursions. First of all, a breach is basically just a resource that is added onto a location. And the text on the agenda, specifically says that when a breach would be placed on a location with 3 breaches, you instead resolve an incursion at that location. So basically, a location, it has 3 breaches, and you're trying to put another one on it above 3. You resolve an incursion. What is an incursion? Well, our campaign guide has a list of things we need to do when an incursion takes place. First, you remove all the breaches on the location. Nice. Then you place a doom on that location. Okay. Then you place 1 breach on each connecting location, and as it says, this can chain react and cause additional incursions to occur. So beware. And then it has this text where once an incursion resolved at a location, breaches from other incursions cannot be placed on that location for the remainder of that phase. So if another incursion happens, it can't like cycle back on itself to, either prevent an infinite loop or just make sure that it's only happening once per round. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That's true in Pandemic too, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is why this scenario is very pandemic-like, is because in pandemic, the terms aren't the same, but you are effectively accruing bad things on locations, and once a threshold is reached, that location spreads its, actually I think it is disease,
Yeah.
to its connecting locations that can cause more spread and etc. Like a pandemic.
I believe it's an outbreak is what it's called in that game.
There you go. And also, like like in pandemic, the locations in which the outbreaks or the diseases are occurring is random. In this case, it's random by random. I think in pandemic, it's like a deck of cards you
Yes.
pull out,
You
something like that.
flip cards.
Yep. That is the main mechanic of the scenario, because you'll also note on the agenda, you actually don't put Doom on the agenda. Instead, when Doom would be placed on the agenda, you instead place 1 plus you place 1 plus the number of investigator breaches on that many different random locations.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and notably, you are picking different locations. You don't just pick the same one 3 times,
Correct.
by accident.
So
You flip
it
over
prevents
cards,
duplicates.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they don't accrue too quickly, but they could.
They could, indeed.
It's weird not to put Doom on the agenda.
It is. Every time you're like, Doom on the... Oh, wait, stop.
Nope. Yep. So yeah, the Doom gets placed on locations, but if you got one, it's no big deal. If you've got two, you're like, okay. But if things start to spiral out of control, you could go from like 2 or 3 to 7.
Indeed. And also a lot of the cards scale with the number of like Doom on your location and breaches on your location and stuff. So it gets worse and worse.
Mm-hmm. And does the agenda advance if you place Doom on locations, or is it only you wait till the next round?
Well, this forced effect happens when Doom would be placed on this agenda, which does happen before the check Doom threshold phase of the Mythos phase. So if that does cause an incursion to occur, which does add enough Doom, then yes, you would advance because of it.
Okay, but if other effects during the Mythos phase, like encounter cards, cause incursions to occur, that would not cause. Just like in, just like Doom and every other card, I guess. Basically, the check
There you go.
Doom and threshold
Exactly
is there. Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty. What do you want to start with? There's a lot to talk about.
Well, how do we get rid of these things in Pandemic? There's ways to get rid of the cubes.
Yeah.
So let's look at the act here.
Yeah, well, it's actually not on the act.
Oh, you're right. It's not.
It's not on the act. Okay. Let's talk about the front of the act first because it is important. Because the way that we need to get clues to begin with is we need 3 per clues. And I guess this is also important. There are no clues on these locations.
Except
there are clues on Hangman's Hill.
Yep,
and Silver Twilight Lodge. The other version that you get, like not the one that has 0. Like one of them is 0, one of them has 1 per.
Yep.
But basically there are no clues. So how do we get clues? Well, we need to remove 3 breaches from this act. Okay, we'll get to how we get breaches on this act to begin with. But when we do that, you place a clue on a random location, and then obviously you could go to the location and discover that clue to be able to get the clues that we need. And notably, you must immediately spend them when you get them. So no waiting around.
You can get almost as many and then spawn more clues.
That's true. And then you could like try to do a
you'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's flip some locations over and see what these things say.
Yeah. Let's start with Southside. Did you start there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see which one we get. All right. This one. 1 shroud, 0 clues. Free trigger. Discard the top 3 cards in the counter deck and move 1 breach from Southside to the current act. Choose a power treachery discarded this effect and resolve its revelation ability if able. Power treacheries.
There's a few.
I think they're all these ones. It's these ones.
Yeah, they're these things, which we'll look at in a second. They can be tough.
Who or that?
Okay, there's a few.
Yeah.
So a lot of these, as we'll see, locations let you take either a free triggered ability or an action to move some number of breaches. This one only lets you move 1 breach at a time, which is a bit sad.
Yeah.
You would really
but
like to have...
sometimes it could do nothing. So
that's true. You would, and there's no limit to how many times you can do this.
Yeah.
You would like to be able to move, if possible, like 2 to 3 at a time. If like a location has a bunch of breaches, and you're like, if it gets 1 more, we're getting Doom, or an incursion, really. So we're looking for that. Let's see what the other version is.
Yeah. So we got 2 shrouds, 0 clues, free trigger. Choose and discard any number of cards from your hand. For each card discarded, move a breach from Southside to the current act.
No, thank you.
1 card for 1 breach. Not a very good rate.
Yeah. So what's interesting about the scenario is, given that there aren't clues around, the question is like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Well, I need to get the clues eventually, but they accrue pretty slowly, and you have to do something beforehand. So one interesting part of this scenario, let's say, is that your cards are used for other things.
Indeed.
All right, what else we got?
Yeah, so we got these 4 surrounding ones. We got Uptown. Let's start with this one. As an action, choose and discard a card from your hand. Move a breach from Uptown to the current act, plus 1 additional breach for each agility icon on that card. So, by default, you're getting 1, and then for each agility icon, you can get maybe 2 more since maximum 3 here, right?
Yeah.
And notes, wild icons do count for this, of course, because wild icons are all icons.
Like I said,
Yep.
your cards are used for other things.
Correct. I think, let's do this one. This is a agility test instead. And for each point you succeed by, move a breach from uptown to the current act.
Yeah, I kind of like this. I would personally rather like take tests with my cards rather than just flat out discarding them because, I mean, while the Chaos bag is kind of scary sometimes, there's upside for most investigators, I think, for taking tests. You might draw more cards if you're committing a manual dexterity to this rather than just discarding it.
That's true.
And,
albeit,
maybe you're getting extra cards because you're, have a lucky cigarette case, you're Winifred, you're committing a watch this or something.
right. I think that there's pros and cons to both, obviously. The other one is a for sure thing. It's test list. You just get rid of something and you can know for sure to do that. With this one, you might be like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to overcommit to make sure that we get at least one off. And then you overcommit, you get all of them off, and you're like, oh, or you draw the auto fail, or you succeed by 0, and then you don't even get any off, and you're like, oh my God.
That's true. That's true. There is a risk. Personally, I mean, maybe it's just playing on standard more often. I think that I'd rather do this. I'm like sometimes looking for tests to take, but
that's fair.
But yeah, let's go around the circle maybe.
Yeah, merchant district. So this one is you spend 2, move a breach to the current act, and it's a free trigger. I like this one, unless you want those resources.
Yeah, I feel like you can, it's there if you go reveal the location, of course, which is one struggle in the scenario. Is like, I don't know what I'm gonna need to do. I need to go
usually
walk around the map.
To be honest, like usually my first few turns are just like going around and be like, what are we even available to deal with this stuff, right?
But you're right. Like this is, if you have the resources, it's guaranteed.
Yeah, and it's free. It's a free trigger as well, which I think is huge.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, next, the other one is an action. Discard the top 5, 10, or 15 cards from your deck. For each 5 cards discarded in this way, move a breach to the current act, and then you draw each weakness discarded in this way. Honestly, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this one I think is fine.
Yeah,
but it can be a little scary because you're like, okay, my weakness is in here or something. I remember I played this once and I think I had exactly 15 cards left in my deck because remember you have to be able to pay the cost in order to.
Oh, that's true. Yep.
In order to do this, so at the beginning of the game, not a problem, but usually when you really want to be able to do this, it's later, right?
Will Yorick loves this.
Yeah, so good. All right.
Going to Rivertown. This is the equivalent of Uptown, but it's book icons instead, and I believe this is the same. Yep. It's test 2 book. So, not so bad. Your seeker can actually do things now instead of having to not investigate, I guess.
They can just camp here.
Exactly. We got French Hill. I think this is willpower. Yeah, that's right. It is basically the same thing, but for willpower.
Cool.
Notably, I don't think there's one for combat.
No.
So, I guess the fighters are doing something else.
they have other things to do.
They do.
South Church?
All right, we got South Church, yeah. This one is you just draw the top card of the encounter deck, and then you move all breaches from South Church to the current act. This one is risky, but sometimes you just gotta do it. Yeah,
I like this one because the other one.
Yeah, what is that one? Oh, you discard an asset, right? Oh,
boo!
Yeah, that sucks.
Here's what sucks. Like, again, if you don't know all of these locations, or at least you aren't familiar with what they might be, I remember, like, you just, like, turn 1 or like I'm gonna play my Dr. Milan Christopher or something, and then you walk down here and say I think I'll get rid of some of those breaches, and then it's discard an asset and you're like, I'm gonna spend my 3rd action and walk back.
Yeah, or like draw a card to find a mag glass to throw away,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all of the middle locations, and then we got a few on the end which are special.
Yeah, so I believe, okay, let me just double check. For version 1, we get Where It All Ends and Shrouded in Mystery, which I think is the ones that are there. Yep. So this location, Hangman's Hill, Where It All Ends, is if we are, if Annette Mason has the power. And let's see what it is. 2 shards, 0 clues. And as an action, but oh my god, the gallows there. That's scary.
Yeah.
As an action, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a witch enemy and draw it, and then you move all the breaches. So it is in theory, less impactful than just drawing an encounter card, since you know what you're gonna get. So you can draw like a little Covenant Initiate or something, so it's not usually so bad. Or you draw a Wish that has victory and then kill it.
Yeah, we'll see them later.
We will indeed.
Yep. Okay.
All right, and then we get this side of the Silver Twilight Lodge. It does have clues, 1 per clues, and victory 1. And you can take a horror to move a breach to the current act. Free trigger.
Is your name Carolyn Fern?
Exactly. I think we actually had this version, right?
We did. Do you have Peter Sylvester?
Yeah, exactly.
Please and thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So, otherwise, if Carl Sanford has the power, then we get this version of Hangman's Hill, which does have victory 1 and 1 per clues, and it's the opposite. You can take a damage to move the breach. I guess if your name is Vincent Lee, you like this as well.
That's right, and Jessica Hyde.
Exactly. And finally, we have Silver Twilight Lodge. Where it all ends, I think it's the same thing. For a Silver Twilight enemy, which of course could be one of those ones with Doom. Notably, you draw it. So for the ones that spawn in an empty location, you still must respect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Luckily, it doesn't spawn engage with you, so that's nice. So
yeah, that's true.
Draw it and then go kill it off. And
that's it. Those are the locations.
those are locations, yeah. And also, mostly the scenario until we get to the encounter cards. But why don't we talk about what happens when you advance the act?
So remember that you're going to be removing lots of breaches. And once you get enough clues, you can walk around and get the clues. And then once you've gotten exactly the right number, you must advance.
Yeah. So let's advance this one. It's Annette Mason. She has been reincarnated evil. She spawns at Hangman's Hill. 5, 6 per investigator health, 3 evade. Alert and Hunter. She gets -2 health for each clue controlled by an investigator. So, notably, this act requires you to spend them. So, this could be 0, although it is theoretically possible you have more if you got a bunch at once.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, main way we're going to have to deal with her, obviously, is we're going to have to defeat her, and we can either actually defeat her, or get clues, or some combination thereof.
Yep. So, if you are, a big team, one person could be, dealing with her, evading, dealing some damage, and everyone else can continue to run around and get breaches off to spawn more clues, and then you get more clues. That's basically like doing 2 damage.
Exactly. She also has this force effect that after a breach is placed on her location, each investigator must either take a damage or horror. That is regardless of where the investigators are. So
that's right.
It's kind of a random effect, basically, since it's random, but can't happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think happens if? Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just saying, we just got to defeat Annette Mason as stated. So again, defeat her by punching her or getting clues or both.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What happens with this one? It's Carl Sanford. Surprise! Why is my Q key not working? There we go. He's a deathless fanatic. 4, 6 for investigator health, 4 evade. He spawns at the Silver Twilight Lodge. He has Hunter Retaliate. Same effect where he gets -2 health for each clue controlled by investigator. And the force effect is after any number of breaches are removed from the current act, place one of them on Carl Sanford's location. So he could, in theory, cause more incursions to occur if you're trying to get more clues out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of neat. That's a good balance to that.
I think so, yeah.
The damage and horror on these guys are kind of neat. They are symmetrical as well. 1 damage, 3 horror for Carl. 3 and 1 damage and horror for Annette, which is pretty tough. If you can't evade them, that could take you out pretty quick.
Yeah, and Carl Sanford does have Retaliate with a 4 fight, can be pretty tricky as well.
Mm-hmm. Neat. Victory 2 on each is nice.
That is nice, yes. All right, got to defeat him.
Yep.
Let's do it. Let's defeat Annette Mason. You fools! And then she goes off. And does she go through the rift? Is that what happens? I forgot.
Yeah, something like that, right? There is something in the interlude to talk about this some more too.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Basically, same thing with Carl Sanford. He's like, "Oh, okay, I guess you are killing me because you don't understand what's going on."
I like your Carl voice. It's always good.
Yeah. We go to R2. Okay, so there are some resolutions, and of course we have an interlude after this. Do you want to talk about those now, or do you want to talk about the encounter cards?
I think we talk about the encounter cards, do the interlude afterwards.
Sounds good.
So
All right.
yeah, there's some new stuff here, and there's a bunch of old stuff, but also different stuff entirely based on which version of the scenario you are playing.
Indeed. Okay, so we got these three cards. These are new. First, we have Chaos Manifest. To power, Revelation test 3 willpower. Place a breach on X different random locations where X is the amount you failed. Obviously, it's a perfectly designed card because that's what this scenario is about, but it's cool.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
3 willpower test for this part of the campaign that has been testing willpower all along. Okay.
Okay. All right, next we got the Primordial Gateway. You attach it to a random location, and you place breaches on it until it has exactly 3. So it's going to fill it up until it's ready to burst. Treat the attached location as if its printed text box were blank, meaning that you don't have the ability to remove breaches from it anymore. But there is an action to test intellect or willpower 4 to close the gateway and discard it, of course.
Yeah.
So this card's pretty tough.
A 4 test of stats that you might not have. Hopefully you do. It's tough. I think it's doable, and sometimes you can ignore it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And we have Terror Unleashed. So if there are no breaches in your location, you put a breach down, and then you must take X damage or horror, which is the amount of doom and breaches on your location, divided as you wish. So minimum, you're taking a damage or a horror, but maximum, you could be taking like 3 or maybe even 4 if there's already been an incursion there. So that's a lot of damage and horror.
I think this one is a nice card. It is difficult if things have gotten out of hand, but just try not to let that happen.
Exactly.
All right.
We got some recurring ones. We got the Demonic Piping back, which could bring in the Piper of Azathoth. We haven't seen this guy since the first scenario, correct?
That's correct. It is not unusual to see him in this one.
Indeed. Yeah, this one can go a little long. In theory, this could go infinitely long. So this guy could show up potentially multiple times too. I haven't actually seen it happen, but it is possible.
Yeah, once definitely happens for me, especially with 3 players or more. But
Yep. And of course, he's going to be set aside to start with. And it is a power treachery, as noted by that other encounter.
That's true. That's true.
That location or whatever. Anyway, and we got some Nightgons. So we got 4 big, beefy health enemies, and we have On Wings of Darkness. Notably, south side is central, so that's where you're going to be plopped off for On Wings of Darkness.
Honestly, okay.
Yeah, it's like, thanks for saving me some actions.
This map is large in terms of this like long corridor you have to walk down. Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like pressure for you to move from one side to the other.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I talked about the fighters having to deal with stuff, this is a big reason, because now there's some more enemies to deal with, so, and also the boss at the end, so fighters are really doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of movement tech I think for this one is helpful.
For sure.
Okay.
All right.
So
let's go with the Annette side.
Okay.
So we got 2 new enemies here. Witness of Chaos. 4/4/2 humanoid witch. She spawns at the location with the fewest breaches, and it has Hunter. After Witness of Chaos enters a location, which can be when she spawns as well, you place a breach on that location. So she's going to be spreading some breaches around.
This is an interesting one. She's got Hunter, right? A low evade.
Yep.
But you do not want to do that. You want to kill this witch.
You need to kill her. Yeah, because this can definitely just cause incursions out of nowhere, especially if, you draw some, you put some incursions down and she hunts into a location with 3 breaches already, and you're like, oh god, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we got Toil and Trouble. Hey, it's the box art.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, I don't think any of the other campaigns have used the box art in an encounter card. I'm trying to remember.
Forgotten Age has it on, I think, one of the act flips.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the first one, actually, when you go to the Temple of Esley or whatever. Yeah. And then I guess Carcosa that is the location you go to.
Is it? It also might be it might be on an encounter card too. Maybe not.
Oh, right. In Dunwich Legacy, that's the abomination.
Yes.
That is true. Okay, never mind. You know what? I stand corrected. Anyway, it is a hex with peril. You must either Resolve the revelation ability on the topmost power treachery in the encounter discard pile, or resolve an incursion at your location. So it's kind of like choosing between an Ancient Evils or just another encounter card. So
Yeah, and if there's no topmost power treachery, it's an
yep,
incursion.
it's an incursion, which could in theory actually cause multiple dooms. So that's pretty tough.
This is like one of the hardest encounter cards I think in the set.
I agree.
You only get it on this side though. We have lots
Yep.
of oldies but goodies.
Yep, we got the witches, so the witches are back. Luckily these witches actually that's not true. They can end up in the discard pile if the encounter deck is being discarded without drawing them.
That's right. Which can
So the
happen.
Priestess of the Coven can grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also we have the Evil Passage cares about the encounter deck going away, and then we have, Century Secrets, kind of same thing. We have these ones. Luckily we don't have, sorry, I was about to say luckily we don't have Diabolic Voices. I'm like, no, it's right
Hello.
here. Yeah.
Is this the only time we've had diabolic voices and dissonant voices, or was that also in the very first scenario?
Oh, good question. I actually don't remember. I think it was.
I think it was too. Yeah.
I didn't realize that the voices were so loud.
Yeah. And evil.
Yeah. We do have Bedeviled here, so I will note something about Bedeviled. It says cards you control. That is not the location, so it still lets you remove the breaches from action abilities on the locations, which is nice.
That's right. I mean, that's the one nice thing about this.
It is the one nice thing about it. Yeah, I mean, the fighters are doing so much that this could be really terrible for them. So.
Oh, I guess you don't have both of these in the same set because it's the other version.
Oh, that's true.
Nah. Anyway. This is going to be the Lodge version. So we've got a counterpart to the Witness of Chaos, which is the Lodge Enforcer.
3/4/3 humanoid cults of Silver Twilight. It spawns at the location with the most breaches, or if the Silver Twilight Lodge, I guess if there's no locations in play with breaches on them, fine. Anyway, it has retaliate, and you just treat its location as if it were blank. So you can't get rid of the breaches on his location, which is so much nicer than the other witch, if I may add.
Yeah,
it's
like a light primordial gateway.
He's carrying a primordial gateway on his back, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, this guy's even fine. He only has 3 fight, still 4 health. So like, this guy is easy. If I'm gonna be honest,
he doesn't move.
He doesn't move. No. All right, and we have Secrets of the Beyond Revelation. Find the closest enemy in play with the most doom. For each doom on that enemy, place a breach on that enemy's location. And if no breach is replaced, it gains surge. So normally it's going to be 1 with the Lodge Neophytes. Just don't let the Keeper of Secrets accrue his doom, because otherwise that could be a nightmare.
Yeah, I think this is interesting to have the doom stuff in this version. Obviously, the other one, there's the Toil and Trouble, which kind of works similarly, but this is the way for the agenda to speed up without incursions having been occurred.
Yeah, and it's honestly kind of scary because it only has 7 doom and there's no other agenda. So if the doom on this side goes out of control, it can literally just end the game.
Mm-hmm. So this is interesting. Remember that locations, these guys only go to empty locations, right? And leaving enemies or having enemies in various locations is going to make it these guys spawn further and further away from you, so harder to get to them to get their doom off.
Definitely. And as we said, we got the normal Silver Twilight enemies, and we have the Mysteries of the Lodge. Basically, it's just making them a little bit more annoying, but not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Kill the Keeper of Secrets. Obviously, we don't have to save them anymore, so just kill them. We don't need to parlay with them.
That's true. Don't need to evade them.
Correct. And then we have our classics here. We have the Striking Fear encounter set, and we have the encounter set from Midnight Masks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I find that False Lead usually gains surge, as always. But in this one, you are working towards getting 3 per clues. But honestly, the Seeker's not really doing anything anyway. So if they drop, they're probably just like, okay, great. I'll just pick them back up.
Hunting Shadow, though.
Yeah, Hunting Shadow. Yeah. Spending those clues could be a real...
Right, exactly. Yeah. Spending the clues this is like maybe one of the very few scenarios that... I mean, yes, the clues regenerate, but it takes a lot of work to get them to spawn again.
not only you're losing the action you took to investigate and discover it, but you're losing the actions you probably had to take to get those breaches on the act in the first place.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I do think this side is easier overall, but there
I
is some
agree.
interesting action taxes like with Frozen and Fear. I think is pretty tough here too.
Yep, I agree.
So that's kind of neat. I like that there's two versions.
Yeah. Tokens?
Tokens.
All right. So the skull. X total amount of doom and breaches on your location, usually around 2 or 3, so not so bad. Cultists, reveal another token. If there are fewer than 3 breaches on your location, place a breach on your location. So can I just add more breaches? Luckily, it cannot incur incursion, but it could lead to something causing it.
Mm-hmm. Not even if you fail.
Correct. Tablets, -2. For each point you fail by, remove a breach from the current act. Basically, what that means is when you get to the threshold of having 3 breaches, you better just start placing the clues. Otherwise, you might lose them if you have tablets.
It's true. I don't think there's any reason ever to leave them on the act. You just
No,
always.
there's literally nothing bad happening for clues on a location. I guess maybe if you're like, we just cleared the victory off of this location, we don't want to have to put it back on. But like
That's
at that
true.
point, you're like, I don't know.
Come on. It's a scenario
Yeah,
7.
exactly. And we have the Elder Things, which are on -3. If you fail, you place the breach on a random location. It's actually usually not so bad, albeit that can, in theory, cause an incursion. So
Yeah. I don't think there's too many. Well, I don't know. On this side, maybe there's a lot of tests that you take that you don't really plan on taking if you
right,
don't have high willpower.
yeah, and you're probably going to fail falsely if it triggers. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Uh, I guess that's it. What before we like
basically it.
talk about like the our formal ratings, I just want to get your like overall opinions about. Hey, this is a scenario that changes things up quite a bit. Some people hate it because they wanted to play Arkham.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that's a great question. So I always have a good time in this scenario. Um, I I don't know if it's similar to why I really enjoy the City of Archives,
Hmm.
but I feel like I get a similar vibe where I'm like doing new things. Like, yes, I built my deck to do a certain thing, but like, is it really that fun if it does that thing every single time, very consistently, every time, all the time? So like, I like that it tries to get me to like, explore new ways to deal with these stuff. I also just enjoy. I don't know. I enjoy the breach stuff and the incursions, and I think it's really cool that this scenario was able to emulate something like Pandemic as a board game,
Mm-hmm.
in this game. And I know that a lot of people are like, well, if I wanted to play Pandemic, I would play playing Pandemic instead of this game. But I think that mindset is kind of like, but you're still playing the game. Like you're taking skill tests, you're drawing in counter cards, you're dealing with enemies. It's not like you're only doing the breach stuff. You still have to discover the clues too. So like, I don't know. I always have a great time in this scenario.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts are it can be I don't like the locations that make you just discard cards. That's basically it. Everything else is good. I don't mind the breach stuff. I just do think that I want to play my deck, and that's I guess maybe a City of Archives callback as well.
Yeah.
And like forcing me to do things that are a little bit weird to just to move forward the game. It's not that I don't like doing that sometimes, but you have to do that a lot. It's not like you just take these discard cards for moving breaches once. You do it maybe a lot because you're like this is the middle location or somewhere that's connected to 2 or 3, and if I don't do this 3 times during this scenario, we're gonna lose. But I don't mind the locations that say take a test or take encounter cards or something else. And I don't mind the clue thing. I know that it kind of wrecks some uh, investigators' plans that are doing like clue drop or something else. Although clue drop is probably okay here, right?
Honestly, Clear Drop seems excellent here.
Yeah, yeah. You pick up one and then you're or two and then you're kind of fine.
Yeah.
But maybe like Inquiring Mind or other cards that care about clues
Sure.
on locations to begin with are a little bit underpowered and
Yeah,
maybe.
and I think also some of it comes down to some play styles where they like to be like, okay, my plan is to go to a location, get all the clues, move on,
Right.
type of play style. And this is not that scenario. This is a scenario where you're like, moving around all the time, getting the breaches off.
Mhm.
Clues over there. Start moving that way. Get some bridges off in the meanwhile. Spot another clue. Oh, there's another one over there. Perfect. I can use my deduction this time. So like
Right.
this is a lot more about tactical thinking rather than like overarching like you can't really plan for stuff in this scenario.
Yeah, and I do like that.
Yeah.
What about the the clue cheese, I suppose, at the end, right? Like you can get extra clues and just sort of defeat Carl or Annette. Is that good? Is that bad? I mean, if you play this a second time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately it is a viable strategy where obviously they do prevent you from having the clues to immediately kill them, but you could spawn enough and then discover the clues after they spawn.
Exactly.
And so it allows, like, honestly, I think that that is a good, just like a good way to think about the scenario when it comes to replayability, because on a blind playthrough, you have no idea that's going to happen. Um, and so it's like kind of neat tech. I don't think it's too bad because it does also run the risk of just dying to begin with, trying to accrue all of the breaches to get those clues to begin with.
That's right.
So there's some risk about it. It's not like there's zero risk.
And I don't think that Carl or Annette are they don't have that much health really. So like 6 per, well that's kind of a lot, but
Yeah.
um
In theory, right? All you need to do is 3 per for the combat and 3 per for the clues. Or sorry, 1.5 per for the clues, right?
right. So yeah, it's not, I don't know. I feel like they go down pretty quick if you, because they only show up at the very end, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I've just planned for it and I don't remember my blind playthrough, but
Well, yeah, I think it's very similar to the secret name with Kezia Mason at the very end.
Yes.
Because normally, as us as experienced players can set up literally for her to die in one turn. But like that's just us being really knowledgeable about this game.
Mhm.
Like normally it's like, okay, she's alive. We have to interact with her a little bit and also get some clues off to the side, right?
Yep. Man, when I played this on my channel, I put down, I was Nathaniel Cho, I put down an ambush on the Silver Twilight Lodge.
Yeah.
That was three damage and then a
That's awesome.
1-2 punch. And
That's
then
awesome.
That was it. That was fun. Honestly, like yeah, my answer to my own question is it's fine because I think with player count it makes it okay, right? Like one investigator, it's only 6 damage. You could probably deal with that in 1 round or 2.
Yep.
If there's 2, then you send someone else to get some clues. They kind of need to anyway, right? Because once Carl or Annette have spawned, you still need to deal with the breaches.
Definitely.
So I think it's a good way to try to speed things up at the end and not just like die to the agenda flip.
Yeah.
All right. The resolutions.
Yeah. So let's talk about resolutions 3 and 4 real quick. That happens if you fail the scenario, aka you either resigned or died. Notably, the back of the agenda doesn't have any traumas. If
That's
you
good.
doom out, nothing bad happens. This scenario is notorious for like, why did we even play this scenario? Because there's literally 0 consequences if you fail. But that is the scenario. Anyway, 3 or 4, basically all you record that is that doom draws ever closer, and then you head off to the interlude after some things going on with some discordant flutes, I guess.
Mhm.
So they like run away. However, if you are able to defeat them, either in R1 or R2, you can decide what to do with them. So in R1, I think, in R1, you can decide how to deal with Annette Mason. You can either, actually, sorry, I should say, she offers to help you kind of like deal with the final like stuff that's going on, and try and like actually stop the thing because the incursions are like going so bad that you can't stop them.
Mhm.
And either you can kind of just be like, no thanks, we'll just go on our own. You can either ask for her assistance. You can place her under arrest, which you can only do if someone has the detective, police, or agency trait, which is really cool flavor. Or you can have her teach you how to be stronger, which you can only do if you are a sorcerer, miskatonic, or a scholar.
And what do
And
those
you get
things
different
do?
outcomes. Good question. We'll talk about that on the interlude right after this, as well as for that last one is something special at the end, I guess.
Mm.
Anyway, resolution 2, aka you dealt with Carl Sanford, is very similar. You can either refuse its help, You can ask him for assistance. You can place him under arrest, or you can assume control of the Silver Twilight Lodge. Yes! You can only do that if you are Sorcerer of Silver Twilight or Cultist Traded. Honestly, the best ending.
That's great.
Yeah. You're like, you failed us. I will do it correctly this time. And then we go to Interlude.
Not much victory in this one. I think there's only, what, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, so 1 from that. You got 2 of the enemies, 2 more from either Annette Mason or Carl Sanford. Potentially the Priest of Piper Velasquez, so potentially 6. But
yeah, sometimes I don't see these guys, the victory point enemies. They just get discarded or something.
That's why you should search for them.
That's right.
Locations.
Okay, Interlude.
Yeah, Twist of Fate. So we are going to record some tally marks for how many paths wide before us, I guess, as fate presents itself. So if you accepted your fate, you get a tally mark. Nice. If we asked Annette for assistance, she talks to us. We get 2 tally marks, but we must add another chaos token to the chaos bag. On standard, it's another -4. So it does not actually increase the floor of our tests, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for if we ask Sanford for assistance. If there are 2 or fewer mementos listed under mementos discovered, nothing happens. Between 3 and 5, you get a tally mark. And if you have 6 or more, you get 2 tally marks. So getting those mementos is good. And I will note, remember that if you went full lodge and gave them all your mementos, you will have 0 at this point. So that's tough. Next thing, if someone has the black book, then you get a tally mark. And if doom draws ever closer, meaning you failed this scenario, you get 2 more tally marks. And that's it.
Hey, what about having Annette teach us the spells of old?
Yeah, if only they had some text here to relate to that.
Why did we do that? Okay, well, maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I guess that's it. I kind of like the interlude. They're setting you up for, at the end, I think it says you jump on your night gaunt steed.
Yeah, that's right. You just kind of summon one. You're like, come to me. We're going to Azathoth's domain.
Yep, let's go. Okay. Yeah, okay. We're going to go talk about some more of our ratings. So, replayability, that's an easy one. We've got 2 versions of the scenario. They're a bit different.
Yep.
I want to play this one more than once just to see the completely different encounter cards I didn't see the first time.
Yeah, and also, I like the... again, you are doing the same thing. You're doing the breaches. You're going to the stuff. Obviously, the randomness of where the breaches happen can really shake up what's going on, as well as every location having 2 different locations, two different versions.
That's right.
So I don't know. I actually find it pretty replayable. It's not like Depths of Yoth replayable because it's like you're still doing the same stuff. But I don't know. I think it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's... I think it feels more like the for the greater good replayability than something like Depths of Joth, where the locations you get really changes things up in what order, and that's kind of fun as a mechanic. I just feel like it's something where I want to go the other route, but that I think is a testament to the campaign structure itself.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so with that in mind, I will give it a 3.5.
3.5 for me too.
Pretty good. Yep.
Kind of encompasses my thoughts. All right, and we get to move on and talk about fairness. Okay.
Yeah.
The random elements are pretty obvious, right? It's you have random locations.
Tons of random elements.
Yeah. So random locations, obviously, but also random breaches that show up all the time.
Yeah.
They give you a way to deal with this, but if you have the test agility one and you have no one who can pass agility tests, this goes into the balance one a little bit too, but there's not really much you can do.
Yeah, and I think that is almost intentional, where I think they expect you to resolve at least 1 or 2 incursions during the scenario. Obviously, if you can have 0 occur, then more power to you. But I think they expect you to slowly accrue that, obviously, because that's how the game works.
Right.
Um, so I think in effect the scenario is somewhat designed to be unfair by design because of the randomness.
Hmm.
Like it's almost designed to ensure that every time you add doom, you're like, where is it going? And you can plan for that in some circumstances by, making sure that no location has 3 breaches on it. But sometimes you're like, I can't deal with that. And if it happens there, then one happens there. And so I think that by design, it is a chaotic scenario. It is in the clutches of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm gonna put my rating. I'm gonna put it at 2.5 because I think that it is inherently unfair, but I think that is what it was trying to go for, if that makes sense.
I think I buy it. I wasn't totally sure before you brought it up in that way that look, the ramifications for losing this one, not bad. In fact, you actually get 2 extra tally marks.
Yeah.
um, it's supposed to be a bit unfair, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about other similar scenarios that have that vibe of you're on one location and you're with an enemy and a breaches show up on the other end of the map and you're like, I can't deal with it. Sorry. That's probably more common than I'd like to admit. And that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
I do wish that, like the previous scenario, there was other ways to deal with, the circle test. I wish there was something else you could do. I don't know what it would be, but some other like
Yeah.
panic button.
Yeah. Maybe if there was some kind of, innate way to deal with the breaches.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Discard your
like,
whole hand.
right. Or like test lowest skill 3 or something.
Right. Yeah. That might be interesting. I think I'll just line up with 2.5. I buy your argument, so I will buy your rating.
Okay.
So this is somewhat related, but again, what do you need to be able to complete this scenario?
Drawing cards would be nice.
Yeah, that's true.
I played this with Harvey one time, and actually he did a fantastic job because him being able to refresh people's hands really saved the day, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine playing this true solo?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I have done it once, and honestly, sometimes you just barrel through it and don't even worry about incursions because you only need 3 clues, and you're like, that's actually not that bad if you think about it.
And they probably they only spawn what, 2 at a time?
2 at a time.
Breaches.
Honestly,
yeah.
This scenario is not so bad. Like, it's just the fact that the map is big. That's the real issue.
That's what I was thinking. Like, if there was maybe something on the central location that let you move, spend a card to move.
That's a good thought.
Like City of Archives.
Yeah. Train ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually think that this scenario is relatively well balanced. I don't think I'm going to talk about movement tech every single time, but movement tech in this scenario obviously is very good. I think this campaign, honestly, movement tech in this campaign is very good.
I mean, is there one where it isn't good?
I guess, yeah. I don't know. You're probably right. Turns out you got to move to locations. That's a pretty core part of the game.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, I think that ultimately everyone can contribute. Once again, if you have cards to discard to the things, you can get bridges off.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a fighter, obviously you're doing a ton of stuff already. I think maybe the Seekers are kind of taking a little bit of a beating in this scenario since, they can't get 12 clues in one action in this scenario, but
they can't speed things up.
No, they cannot speed things up.
Yeah.
So I think with that in mind, I'll give it like a 4, actually. I'm going to give it a 4. Maybe it's a little too high, but we'll go with 4.
I think it's a little too high. I'm going to give it a 3.5.
All right.
I do think that if you just happen to not have, something that is on, one corner of the map and getting to it can be tough. But maybe you just sort of save all the cards in your hand for that test, or you have other ways of dealing with it. Remember, I think when we played this, I was Carol and Vern, and I
Yep.
played Close the Circle.
Yeah.
And you know who can pass agility tests when they're not actually agility tests anymore?
Yeah. Turns out they're all willpower tests.
You
It's
can
all good.
you can do it. Yeah. So
Yep.
I think with a bigger card pool, of course, you could start to pull off shenanigans like that, and you start to see the value of those cards when the scenario itself forces you to have a balance in your stats. And you're like, well, I don't have that. I'll try something different instead of just complaining that your cards that always work aren't working right now.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Do you like playing Pandemic? No,
That is the question.
actually, I like this one more. I used to not like it as much, and I think probably in the last couple of years I've liked it a lot more because I've. Well, look, I think maybe it's only one scenario, right? And it's trying something new for sure. I think it works. I like the gameplay loop. It's fine. Um, that's kind of
I
my
mean,
thought on that part.
I think that ultimately it does come down to like, are you okay with inserting pandemic mechanics into this game? Because if you're fundamentally opposed to that, then there's nothing we could do to be like,
No.
you should like this scenario. Because if you don't like it, you don't like it. But if you either have played pandemic and enjoy it, or are willing to be like, oh, it's fun, they're like bringing these ideas into the scenario to really liven up what the scenario is, then I actually think that it's like a really cool scenario when it comes to fiction, because there's so much going on in the aesthetics department of like, the scenario is so different because all of this stuff is happening in Arkham.
Hmm.
It feels like a climax scenario almost, which I know
Again.
it isn't. Again, exactly. Every scenario is a climax at this point. But like it feels like so many things are going on, that there's like breaches over there and enemies spawning you to repair things and then fly everywhere, and the night gaunts are still there.
Hmm.
So like I think it really lends itself well to the theme of this scenario in particular.
I like playing whack-a-mole. I think it's kind of a fun part of this game. But
Yeah,
honestly, like the more I play it, the less I think it's exactly Pandemic. I do
that's
feel
true.
like it is Arkham enough. It's not the last time that they are going to go to this well. There's Innsmouth that has kind of a clue mechanic,
Yep.
but even so, you're still playing Arkham. I feel like that's still the core gameplay loop. It's just look, there's so many scenarios in this game. They can't just do the same thing for every scenario. They have to change it up, and they do that a lot.
One time they're gonna make a Connect Four scenario
Ooh,
where the encounter deck is gonna be placing the disc in you to put ones incorrectly in. Um,
that that kind of sounds fun. I mean, Dark Matter has a sliding
that's true. The sliding puzzle, yeah,
sliding puzzle. It's
that'll be
fine.
fun.
Like I think these are neat things to incorporate into like how can Arkham incorporate this and still make it work.
Yeah,
And I think they do it successfully here. If it's not your cup of tea, then sure. I would say that there are scenarios that try a gimmick and are unsuccessful
yeah,
entirely, and I don't think that this is one of them.
I agree. I will give it a 4.5.
Nice. Um, I don't think I'm going that high. I'll go with 4.
Okay.
I do enjoy it though. I think it. I've enjoyed it more, and probably it's worth another shot if you haven't played this one in a while. I guess that's it, huh?
Yep,
So
that's it.
next time before the Black Throne,
Yeah,
looking forward to that. That's another stellar one to talk about. I think there's just oh no, I
and
said
that's
stellar. Ugh, okay.
oh no,
Oh,
it's also gonna be a long one.
it could be. Okay, well, we're gonna finish this one up by talking about the Return 2 very quickly. And if you won't be joining us there, then please join us next week for the culmination of the Circle Undone. All right, we're back for the Return 2. Just a few changes here. We'll start with the Tarot, the
Yeah.
Chariot.
So face up, 2 more cards in your opening hand, baby. That's
Yeah,
so good.
that's so good. And you can mulligan those, of course.
Exactly.
Or
2 fewer. And you cannot draw cards on your first turn. No.
I think
Yeah, this one is very much don't turn it face down.
that's brutal in this scenario.
It is, especially so. It's almost like they were kind of designed like that, I think,
Yeah,
in theory.
fair enough, fair enough. All right, the changes here are pretty simple. We just have another version of the 6 locations in the middle.
Yeah.
Let's look at them.
Let's look at them. Starting with Southside. 3 shrouds. As an action, evade. Use this ability on an enemy in play or in the encounter deck. If you fail, the enemy attacks you, even if it is not in play. But if you succeed, you move all the breaches to the current act.
Cool.
That's cool. I like this.
That's
cool.
neat. Yeah, so anything in the encounter discard pile, and maybe if you're playing the witch's side, there's more things that can show up there, but otherwise you can't do this on the first turn, basically.
Correct.
All right.
Uptown. It's another foot test thing. Move any number of breaches. Then you test X agility. X is the number of the breaches that were moved. For each point you fail by, you take a damage. This is really cool.
It's interesting that they haven't really done this idea, I don't think, in any other scenarios where you like do something and then based on like some choice that you did, you take a test. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I think it's really cool because I think for me, this fixes the issues where you are able to control how much risk you're able to take or you're willing to take. Because you could move 1 breach for an action and only have to test agility 1, only take 1 damage, or you can try and risk it all because there's 3 breaches here. We have to make sure it doesn't pop off. So really, really cool.
Yeah, I think I would always, well, not always, but most times I'm going to do as many as I possibly can.
I agree. All right, Merchant District. Move 1 breach to the current act. You may spend any number of charges, secrets, supplies, or ammo to move that many additional breaches. That's cool.
I like this. You know what's really good? You could have like a Kachi.
Yeah.
Tons of charges.
You could have Ariadne's Twine trading resources for secrets.
That's true.
For breaches.
Forbidden Knowledge, right? That has a bunch of secrets on it. Just dump it.
You can take off archaic glyphs secrets. The level 0 version.
Oh yeah, you could do that. Sure. Or you just do it from your level 3 version because you aren't using them because there's no clues anymore.
You could do this for the red clock and get 2 plus 2 actions every single turn.
See, more cards need to have fun things like that.
Yeah.
Especially because they're on encounter cards or locations, so you're not like planning for this, right? It's just like a fun synergy you can think up in the moment.
This is the same as the Uptown, except it's a book test, and when you fail, I take a horror or a damage for each point you fail by, which is much more nice. However, it is X. X is 1 more than the number of bridges moved, so difficulty is higher.
Okay.
And French Hill is willpower horror. It is that's the actual analog to Uptown.
That's right. I like these. I mean, I like these because they're skill tests and not the garbage discard cards ones. But I think I like the idea.
Yep. Stott Church, double action. It's cool.
Good.
This is way more nicer than discard Naz that you control.
Yes.
Holy crap.
Good. I'd be happy to like move here and then realize I don't have enough actions and then just say, okay, next turn I will spend my first 2 actions with this and then move back. Very good. Nothing else that's new. We
got some return to encounter cards that we have all seen before.
Mm-hmm. Our last look at these 3, I think.
I believe so.
Did these do anything special? Are there extra non-weakness treacheries in your threat area? I don't think so.
No, none of the power ones stick in your threat area.
No.
Yeah.
And then notably the Lodge version is completely unchanged.
Correct, since Striking Fear and Ancient Evils. Sorry, Striking Fear and the other one are unchanged.
Yeah. It's kind of too bad there wasn't a Return to version of like some part of the Lodge stuff, but
yeah, that would have been cool.
I guess there's only one. There's one Lodge set and that's it.
Yeah, I wonder if they're like tried to change the Silver Twilight Lodge character set and they're like, that messes up too many other scenarios.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, a simple one to talk about. I think it's good though. I like I said, having a third version of all of these locations improves things a lot.
Twist of Fate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So more bullet points. Yay. So this one finally reacts to if you either arrested the person or ask them or do the special thing with them. So the ones that required you to have a specific trait on your investigator. So if you arrested Annette, you actually erase a tally mark, but you get to remove a skull from the chaos bag. All downside for Jim Culver.
No.
But usually skulls are bad, right? So
Actually, honestly, in the last scenario, I think the skulls are like not bad.
what is the skulls again? I don't even remember.
It's like half the number of Doom on Azthoth.
Oh right. I mean that can get bad. Like
No, I mean it's minus
it's a
two.
minus.
It's minus
Yeah,
two
it's a
always.
minus 2 always. Yeah.
And then maybe plus a few. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Not as bad as the other ones, honestly.
No. Anyway, if Annette taught you the spells of old, so each investigator may importantly search the collection for a basic pact, curse, omen, or silver twilight weakness of their choice and add it to their deck.
It's so funny.
Each investigator who does earns 4 bonus experience that can only be spent to purchase or upgrade spell, ritual, sorcerer, or witch cards.
Mm-hmm.
Who's a witch?
Diana?
Yeah. Is a what's her face? I don't know why I'm thinking about. I guess El Rubash is a witch. Oh, Oliver McBride's also the other witch.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
This is cool.
It's cool. Yeah. I mean, obviously spells and rituals are going to be huge.
Yeah, I'll take 4 bonus experience.
Sorcerer.
But the fact that you can pick your own weakness is really funny.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorcerer. There's Arcane Initiate.
Mm-hmm.
Alyssa Graham, but that's a little 0 cards. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Ikiak. It's cool.
Okay.
And Nkosi Mabadi.
He's a sorcerer?
He is indeed a sorcerer.
That's pretty good. That's 3 XP there. But
Yep.
yeah, spell cards, like there's tons. So
Yeah, spell cards and also ritual cards, I think. But spell
now,
cards for sure.
if you get this, you could have been a scholar. What is it?
Yeah, it's a Scott. Nope, too far.
Sorcerer?
Sorcerer, Miskatonic, or Scholar.
Yeah. So the problem here is like if you're not a mystic or have any mystic access,
Right.
there are a
So-
few cards. Like there are some spells that are in Seeker, but not too
Yeah.
many.
Yeah, I think you're really Sorcerer. So Sorcerer is Agnes Baker, Dexter Drake, and Marie Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like. Obviously Miskatonic is a bunch of the Seekers. I wonder who's a Scholar.
Is Rita a scholar? She's Miskatonic, I think.
I think so. Okay, so Scholar is Amanda Sharp, Kate Winthrop,
Mm-hmm.
Kohaku Narukami. Oh, okay, he's a Scholar.
Yep.
And Mandy Thompson.
Mm.
She could technically take Mystic cards, but
Yeah.
Miskatonic. So there's Amanda Sharp, Daisy,
Mhm.
obviously, Kate
Harvey.
Winthrop, Harvey Walters, Norman Withers. Rita Young is indeed Miskatonic, and I think that's it.
What is Rita gonna get with this?
Are there some spell tricks? I don't know.
Alter Fate level 3. Let's go.
Yeah. There you go.
Ritual. What's that thing? The one that adds blesses or curses. Spirit of Humanity. That's a ritual.
It is. Yeah, that's true.
Okay. But yeah, like if you look through the packs, curses, omens, and silver twilight weaknesses, I think there's like some stuff you can just be like, whatever, I'll take this.
I believe all of the Return to Carcosa are packs. Am I crazy?
I want to say that's true. I want to say that you can take one of the ones that just gives you negative experience or whatever for
Yes.
the last scenario.
Yes, they are packs.
Great. You can
And
just
you could take them. It's a dead draw.
yep, dead drop, but or you could like pick one that you could easily pass. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is cool. Love it.
Okay. If you arrested Sanford,
Yeah. So you erase the tally mark and you add a -1 to the bag, which is pretty good.
much better. Like that.
Yeah. And if you assume control of the Silver Twilight Lodge, you add 2 cultists, which does mean, I believe, that puts it at 4 cultists.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it has to be because
Mhm.
yeah. And each investigator begins the next scenario with 2 additional resources and 2 additional cards in their opening hand. Let's go! That is so awesome.
Oh, what? Okay, before we go, what is the cultist token in this last one?
That's a great question.
Reveal another token. If you fail, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a cultist enemy and draw it. Shuffle the encounter deck.
So it's just some acolytes or the Wizard of the Order, right?
Oh no, those are actually really bad in that scenario.
You're right. I guess you're right, actually. It doesn't actually, it's only if you fail, it doesn't actually add any negative modifiers, so that's fine. I guess you could, in theory, draw 4 of them and spawn all 4 of them.
Where'd it go? Did you take it out?
Oh, yes, here it is. Sorry.
I want to see what it is on hard.
Oh, I think you. Oh, there it is. Wait, no, you.
Oh, did I
You
deal
dealt
it?
it to everyone.
Oh, here it is.
Here it is.
It's the same.
It's the same. All right.
Well, good news, Silver Twilight fans. I think this is super cool. I wish all of these were in the original. I don't know why they weren't.
I agree.
Did they forget? Did they? I mean, like, why are these things in the campaign guide?
I think, yeah, the epilogue has some things about arresting them, right? Yeah.
Ah, you're right.
So they do talk about it, but they were like, "But why doesn't it?" Because you lose.
You lose tally marks.
You do lose, right? So.
Or at least you could have gotten.
You don't earn them.
Yeah, you could have gotten other ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's fun. I have done. Have you done any of these? I've done the. Asked Annette to tell me teach me this.
I don't think I've actually ever done any of these because I just didn't match up the traits correctly.
Ah. Yeah, no, I've done that one.
Yeah.
I think I've arrested Sanford.
Nice. Yeah.
We'll talk about the tally marks, I think, next time because they actually matter a little bit more. But
for sure.
Yeah, I think that's it
Tally
for now.
marks are good. Yep.
Cool. We'll talk to you later.
See ya.